Welcome back to another episode of Cosmic Comics. Today I'm going to be looking at the first appearance of Nebulon and the regrouping of Squadron Sinister after leaving the Grandmaster's service. This story takes place in Defenders Volume 1, issues 13 and 14 from 1974, and it's been 5 years since Squadron Sinister last appeared as a group in Avengers Volume 1, issue 70. Squadron Sinister has just suffered defeat at the hands of the Avengers in the Grandmaster's games. While most of the members of Squadron Supreme seemed to return to their normal lives, Hyperion remained trapped inside the bubble of glazed sand Thor had imprisoned him within. When the Grandmaster left the Earth, the energies associated with his passing hurled Hyperion's bubble deep into the void of space. Hyperion floated in space for months within his tiny cell. This had to be maddening because a being such as Hyperion could potentially live for thousands of years in a situation like this. A passing ship in space noticed Hyperion and pulled him into itself. Once inside, Hyperion was freed from the bubble by Nebulon. At this time, Nebulon is working as an interstellar geologist in search of a mineral-rich planet that he can flood because in their natural form, his species lives underwater. Surprisingly, Nebulon is rather open about not being very good at his job, as he admits to being the only one who hasn't found anything. Hyperion has one heck of a deal for Nebulon. He'll sell Nebulon Earth in return for getting his revenge upon the planet he saw as responsible for the destruction of his own. Nebulon's plan is to use a giant ice-melting machine to defrost the poles of the planet and raise the ocean levels of our entire planet. To think of the scale that these guys are working on is absolutely ridiculous. They have this one tiny machine that they have to drive around in, zapping all the polar ice that they can. It looks like this would be a job that would take weeks, decades maybe? I don't know, maybe I'm misjudging the power of this machine. I could be wrong here. So Nighthawk warns the Defenders about Nebulon and Squadron Sinister. For divulging their plan, Nighthawk is transported to where Squadron Sinister is working on melting the ice caps. Soon the Defenders follow. Hulk, Doctor Strange, Namor, and Valkyrie face off against Hyperion, Dr. Spectrum, and Wizard respectively. As the Defenders gain the upper hand in the battle, Nebulon calls it to a close by encapsulating our heroes inside an energy globe. Before moving on to the next issue, I need to stop and address Dr. Spectrum. The last time we saw Dr. Spectrum was when Iron Man unmasked Kenji Abatu and stomped the Power Prism to pieces. Kenji Abatu never regains the Power Prism again, so who's the new member of the group? Shortly after Iron Man stomped the prism to pieces, it was found whole and complete within a trash can by Bob Farmer, one of the city's sanitation workers. Bob's soul was too pure to be corrupted by Cremon, and Bob, being a religious man, decided to turn his good fortune over to God. Evangelist Billy Roberts was more than happy to take the power prism from Bob. He planned to then sell it for money for his ministries, but before he had the chance to get it appraised, it started to exude its influence over Billy. Somewhere along the way, in another story yet to be told by Marvel, Billy Roberts took on the costume and identity of Dr. Spectrum. It seems as though his former teammates either didn't notice or didn't care that the Power Prism doesn't talk any longer and that their teammate is a different person. All the heroes have been captured and placed in the same energy globe. Instead of killing the Defenders, Hyperion insists that no blood be shed and they suffer in the same manner that he did, to be tossed into space, to float forever through the void. This is actually a very fitting punishment considering that the same thing was done to him. Nebulon concedes to his request and sends the heroes skyward. Working as a team, the group escapes. Once our heroes are back on the ground, Nebulon creates an ice monster to slow them down. It proves a formidable foe because any damage done to it immediately regenerates. The ice monster is finally defeated when Hulk throws it in front of the ice melting laser that is currently working on melting the polar ice. Nebulon continues to hold off the Defenders until Doctor Strange suggests they attempt to divide his attention by attacking from all sides. Once the heroes launch a coordinated attack, Nebulon folds in upon himself and reveals the true form of the Celestial Man. Turns out that Nebulon has been maintaining an illusionary form around himself in order to be more easily accepted by the human race, and if he's out of the water for too long or loses his concentration, he'll revert back to his original form. While Nebulon attempts to revert back to a humanoid form, Nighthawk sees an opening. He jumps onto the ice-melting laser and points it at Nebulon. The laser hurts, and Nebulon absorbs as much power as he can, but it ends up being more than he can take at any one time. He fires back, and suddenly the ground where Nebulon and Squadron Sinister had been is empty. The laser blows up due to Nebulon's counterattack, leaving Nighthawk out cold on the ground. Doctor Strange uses the life force of those present to heal him and fill him with the fires of life. The newly reborn Nighthawk is forgiven of his sins, and a seat is given to him at the table of the Defenders. He happily takes them up on the offer, taking only a moment to reflect that he hopes to never give them any reason to regret their decision. Two important things come out of this issue. The villain Nebulon is introduced, and Nighthawk's transition from villain to hero is completed, wherein he is literally reborn at the end of the issue. Also, the Submariner leaves the Defenders. Yeah, I kinda skimmed right over that last fact, but since they aren't really a group, I just didn't care. Thanks for joining me for another episode. Feel free to hit any of the buttons below. I'm out.